Japan has entered its week-long spring holiday. For people in Tokyo, it's the second straight year the break falls under a coronavirus state of emergency. The Tokyo Metropolitan Government says it confirmed 1,027 new infections in the capital on Thursday. It's the first time in 3 months that the daily tally has topped 1,000. 58 people are in serious condition. Tokyo Station was less crowded than usual given the time of the year. Bookings for reserved train seats have more than doubled compared to the same period last year. But the figure is just 1/5 what it was before the pandemic.
I'm worried about my mother. She lives alone in my hometown. I've decided to visit her for only 3 days.
A relative is having a wedding, and after much thought, I've decided to attend. The ceremony itself has been postponed several times over the past year.
In terms of air travel, All Nippon Airways says it has over 400,000 bookings for domestic flights during the holiday week through next Wednesday. It says the figure is about 7 times that of a year earlier, but just 40% that of 2019.
I expected a lot of people, but there aren't that many. Maybe people are staying at home.
Osaka Prefecture is also under a state of emergency. The government there confirmed 1,172 new cases. This brings the total number to over 80,000. 44 deaths were also reported, a record number for a single day. The minister in charge of the vaccination rollout, Kono Taro, says the government is weighing subsidies for doctors who help out at mass vaccination sites. He says there's a growing need to inoculate as many people as possible, given the spread of more infectious variant strains throughout the country. President Joe Biden says America is ready for takeoff as he leads the country out of the coronavirus crisis. He addressed a joint session of Congress for the first time on the eve of his 100th day in office.
Now, after just 100 days, I can report to the nation, America is on the move again. Turning peril into possibility, crisis to opportunity, setbacks into strength.
It's the first time a president has delivered such a speech in the middle of 2 women, Vice President Kamala Harris and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Biden's ambitious economic programs were at the heart of his message. He touted his American Families Plan to revamp education for young children and help stretched parents. He also spoke about once-in-a-generation investment to get millions back to work. He took aim at unfair trade practices such as theft of intellectual property that he says undercut American industries. And he discussed the relationship between Washington and Beijing.
I also told President Xi that we'll maintain a strong military presence in the Indo-Pacific, just as we do with NATO and Europe. Not to start a conflict, but to prevent one.
Biden underscored that the U.S. will work with its allies in the international community.
No one nation can deal with all the crises of our time, from terrorism to nuclear proliferation, mass migration, cybersecurity, climate change, as well as what we're experiencing now, the pandemics.
In regards to nuclear programs in North Korea and Iran, he said the U.S. will use both diplomacy and stern deterrence. He talked about inequality as well, calling on the nation to root out racism in the criminal justice system. He also described gun violence as an epidemic in America and called on Congress to pass reforms. India and Russia have agreed to hold 2+2 talks between the respective foreign and defense ministers. The announcement came shortly after Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke on the phone on Wednesday. Modi is expected to use the talks to promote national security. India has traditionally pursued a close military relationship with Russia. Meanwhile, experts say Moscow may be trying to increase its influence over India in a bid to rival the United States. Washington is currently working on strengthening ties with Japan, Australia, and India in the context of a grouping known as the Quad. On Thursday, India received shipments totaling over 22 tons of emergency supplies from Russia. This comes as the country struggles against a catastrophic surge in coronavirus cases. The aid package includes 75 ventilators and 20 oxygen concentrators. Russia's presidential office also said an agreement had been made for Indian companies to produce up to 850 million doses of the Sputnik V vaccine developed by Russia. Apple and Facebook have posted huge jumps in quarterly earnings. This comes as people spend more time online and on their devices amid the pandemic. Apple reported $90 billion of revenue for the January to March period, good for a nearly 54% increase from the same quarter last year. The company attributed the growth to strong iPhone and iPad sales as people increasingly work from home. Apple's net profit for the quarter came in at just over $23 billion. CEO Tim Cook said the results reflected the way, quote, our products have helped our users meet this moment in their own lives, unquote. Facebook saw a 48% increase in total revenue amid strong growth from advertising. The firm's net profits for the period almost doubled from last year. Former Australian Prime Minister Julia Gillard is on Japan's Spring Honours list. That's for her response to the 2011 earthquake and tsunami.
For me, this is a remarkable recognition, and I feel very honoured, but I really feel it's an award for the people of Australia generally.
Gillard is one of nearly 120 non-Japanese citizens from 46 countries and territories to be decorated. She'll receive the Grand Cordon of the Order of the Rising Sun. She was Australia's first female prime minister. She was in office from 2010 to 2013. Gillard was the first foreign leader to visit areas hit by the March 2011 quake and tsunami. She met disaster victims at an evacuation center in Minami-Sanrik Town, Miyagi Prefecture, in April that year.
I decided to go ahead with my visit as a very visible way of saying that Japan was coming through this profound period of tragedy and was looking to reopen and re-engage with the world. So I made the decision that if I, by going, could help send that message globally, then that would be the right thing to do.
Gillard says Japan has been propelled through the last decade by the stoicism and determination of its people. She said sharp memories from the visit will stay with her for the rest of her life. Those were the main stories for this hour.
A container ship blocking the Suez Canal is freed, easing ship traffic on the important waterway. In Mozambique, people in Palma tell of violence that killed many civilians as the army fights a rebel group in the area. China's foreign ministry welcomes a visit to Xinjiang by United Nations human rights officials, but objects to an investigation that prejudges guilt. And in Myanmar, at least 459 people have been killed since the military takeover, including 114 during protests on Saturday.
The Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny has launched a scathing attack on President Putin during a court appearance via video link. It's the first time he's been seen since the end of his hunger strike. Turkey's entered a 17-day nationwide lockdown. The country's had a surge of cases and a new third wave of coronavirus. All non-essential shops will be closed and travel between regions will be restricted. In the UK, Boris Johnson has dismissed suggestions that he broke the rules over improvements to his Downing Street flat as a farrago of nonsense. The opposition Labour Party is pressing him to reveal who paid the initial bill. And China's taken the next step in its ambitious space program by launching part of a permanent orbiting station. This section will become the living quarters.